Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for a special Snow Leopard Network webinar. My name is Ashley Letts-Nelson. I'm the Executive Director of the Snow Leopard Conservancy. We partner with local conservationists, range country and international organizations, and mountain communities living with snow leopards. We invest in solutions that save the lives of snow leopards and other predators from the consequence of human-wildlife conflict and build a long-term foundation of coexistence, guardianship, and self-reliance. Our initiatives empower Indigenous traditional ecological knowledge, evidence-based science, and promote healthy mountain ecosystems across the snow leopard's range. One of our main initiatives, Land of the Snow Leopard Network, or LOSL for short, was founded in 2013, working to empower Indigenous peoples to protect snow leopards and their ecosystems while also preserving cultural traditions. Snow leopards are seen as guardians of sacred mountains, sources of wisdom, and a powerful unifying force in ancient traditions. LOSL unites Indigenous communities, local groups, and Western conservation scientists across Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, and the Russian Federation, making sure that snow leopard conservation is driven by both ecological science and traditional Indigenous ecological knowledge. It's my great pleasure to introduce Land of the Snow Leopard Network's director, Ms. Maria Ajunova. Maria has been the director since 2019 and is based here with us in California, coordinating the network across these landscapes. Maria has received her education from both Harvard and Cambridge universities to help bridge Western scientific approaches with Indigenous traditional knowledge. Maria says being the director of the Land of the Snow Leopard Network has helped her appreciate the snow leopard both as a keystone and as a totem animal with profound religious, cultural, and ecological significance. And I'm so honored to introduce Maria here today. We'll be delighted to answer everyone's questions. Please just pop them in the chat as you think about it, and I'll facilitate the question and answer section at the end. And we have a couple of extra special guests here today as well, and I'll turn it over to Maria to introduce. Thanks very much for being here with us and for your interest in Land of the Snow Leopard Network.
Hello, thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you so much, Rahi. Greetings, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you today. So my name is Maria, and I come from the Buryat Mongol people, from the Lake Baikal region, in southeastern Siberia in Russian Federation. And but currently I'm based in San Francisco, and it's the traditional land of the Ramaytush Ohlone people and Mawekma Ohlone people, and so many other tribes that maybe I don't know, but we honor this land and we honor the people that are still here. And today, I think it would be a very interesting, hopefully, and very unique story that we have for you today, which will include some of the like Ohlone people that I mentioned. So I was hoping we would have our very esteemed elder Japarkul Ata from Kyrgyzstan to open our meeting with a prayer, but he may or may not be logging in. But in this case, I would still like to share the video from our other elders of our network, our spiritual practitioners, and who will hopefully explain very well about the sacredness of snow leopard, about the and about how we view snow leopard, which is most likely very different from what your work usually consists of. So And please let me know if the sound is
I don't hear anything, Maria.
oh, it's about to start.
Okay, sorry.
Bu men Altay'dın yerinden gelgen. Ağa Altay'dın yerinden. And I was a scientist, and I was a little skeptical about this. But I have realized, working 30, 40 years in the field, that the local people really are the guardians of that habitat and that species. And unless we have them behind us, we are not going to succeed. For the members of the land of the snow leopard, what I really think is that they have a key role to play in snow leopard conservation. And the reason I say that is that they live out in the mountains. They see what is going on, whereas the wildlife department officials or the national park officials are in the office most of the time. And so their eyes and ears are not in the mountain. For LOSL, the eyes and the ears are in the mountain all the time. We very first met Norbu Lama in 2010, and Norbu explained to us that the snow leopard was a protector of their Skoyat people. And this was the first time we had ever met people who had this spiritual connection to the snow leopard. Ну, прежде всего, снежный барс это связано с воспоминанием моего учителя. Перед самым уходом моего учителя мы вместе встретили снежного барса после традиционного праздника почитания горы Мукос-Айдак, его хозяина Мукос Буренхана. После этого праздника вот мы ехали обратно, и недалеко от этого места, где проходит сам молебен, на дорогу выскочил снежный барс. Это ущелье Темелик, где река Якутска протекает, в одном таком красивом месте, вот, где ржин, скалы, вплотную к дороге подходит. В этом месте вот выскочил снежный барс на дорогу. Здоровый самец. Вот таким образом у нас вот стояла встреча с снежным барсом. В течение 30 минут, наверное, где-то мы наблюдали за ним. Ну, вот, на расстоянии где-то 40-50 метров буквально рядом. Он никак не испугался, стоял, позировал, буквально в смысле там. То есть, вот. И я видел, как, ну, учитель был погружен в некое состояние. Он молчал и смотрел, и вот какая-то связь вот происходила с этим барсом. Ну и вот после всего он потихоньку начал подниматься в горы. Ну и вот пока вот хвостом не махнул там на самом гребне там и исчез там в горах. После этого учитель он сказал, что хозяева этих местности в знак того, что мы на правильном пути, он показал самое откровенное, редкое, что есть в этих местах. В этом проекте по спасению снежного барса и горных экосистем вот, привлекает нас как культурных практиков. Это, по сути, инновационный подход именно в решении вот, именно защиты природы и вообще всего феномена жизни. То есть традиционные знания, они необходимы для человечества. Потому что все-таки вот эта наша человеческая цивилизация, она многие вещи забывает,
Коренные народы, они сохранили эти знания.
We also work with a shaman in the Altai Republic who is the hereditary guardian of the snow leopard mountain. It's actually called Irbis 2.
Снежный барс там находится зимой и летом, и кругом он сейчас больше стал еще. Размножается еще. Снежный барс до сих пор есть. С этого снежного барса в природе мои предки жили связаны были животными эти снежного барса. Они не допускали чужих людей туда. Они не убивали козероги, где он питается, ходит. Эти мои родовые горы Ирбисту, мы до сих пор этих поклоняемся. Поклон, низкий поклон.
Здравствуй, Ирбис. Я очень рада, что могу написать тебе письмо. Меня зовут Полина, и я учусь в 3 классе. Я очень люблю животных, и мне очень жалко их, так как среди нас, людей, много охотников и браконьеров, которые безжалостно убивают животных. И поэтому многие занесены в Красную книгу, и вы, Ирбисы, тоже. Дорогой Ирбис, я хочу извиниться за тех людей, которые не понимают, что наносят ущерб животному миру, а значит и всей природе.
So we created this video for JSLEP, one of the JSLEP meetings some time ago. And when we reflect about how we started, why we started, we started in 2013, our alliance of more than 100 members, which includes individuals and conservation organizations, Western conservation organizations, then indigenous activists, and most importantly, indigenous cultural practitioners and elders, of whom you just saw their message. And at the time of the creation of JSLIP, if I'll just be quite blunt with you all, at that time, there was really not much discussion or space given to the elders, and indigenous cultural practitioners, who has, as Dr. Rodden Jackson said, the utmost knowledge and experience, and this responsibility for the sacred snow leopard. So as years went by, we were invited to be at those spaces, and our elders were able to present and be part of those discussions. But my wish is that this conversation will continue more and more and more, and where our elders their voice will be included in the future, policies and laws related to conservation, not just snow leopard, but entire mountain ecosystems as well. And just a brief overview of our territories. In particular, where the Land of Snow Leopard Network works is this regions on the map. And I think Ashley introduced us. So we're in Mongolia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and then Altai Mountains of Republic of Buryatia. That's where I'm from, and Republic of Altai. And that's when one of the elders on the video is so shared his experience in revering snow leopards. I'm always excited and always joyful, and yet always a bit nervous when to describe the scope of our work because it's so giant, it's so holistic, it's so unusual, it's so unique for the lack of better word. So our approach to snow leopard conservation is yes, it's working with Western conservation science partners such as Snow Leopard Conservancy, such as trying to impact JSLIP, trying to impact our regional and the national governments and so forth, and then we have a beautiful and absolutely wonderful educational programs. It's called Nomadic Nature Trunks. Maybe some of you are familiar with this. It's a groundbreaking work on educating mostly rural youth about wildlife, about and then basically it's as you can imagine, it will. Hence the name Nomadic Nature Trunk. It's a trunk which contains many educational materials about wildlife, but these materials can be adapted to basically any subject, from biology to mathematics to English language to native language to physical education to history, and the list goes on and on. And then recently, and this was developed by one of our country coordinators from Mongolia, a very renowned wildlife biologist, Tungalaktaya Huhandu, and then together with our elders and other cultural practitioners, we were able to kind of indigenize these trunks a bit, which would now all the lessons now it includes with the consultations of our elders, the kind of spiritual aspect, like the legends about snow leopards, and then and it has this new curriculum that will empower these little children to actually not to be afraid to interview their elders, right? And it gives them new tools to explore snow leopards and other animals, not just from the biological perspective, but from cultural and spiritual as well. So therefore, as you can tell, that our elders are like the core, the essence of our network. So in large, I guess, if I can, deconstruct a little bit, what we do is, and then my personal responsibility is to support our Indigenous cultural practitioners, or ICPs for short, on the global stage, because their voice needs to be heard and respected and to be considered to many conservation practices, and then to help inspire other Indigenous people around the world in their own work and fight for their sacred sites, for their Indigenous rights, and so forth. So, and what I mean by support, it's getting them to present at the Parliament of the World's Religions, which was in Chicago. I think it's every 4 years. And hence, by the world's religions, you can understand it was mostly the main world religions, from Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and then yet our elders, representing our Indigenous spirituality, they presented there as well. And also, I should have probably talked about it at the beginning, but even while the essence of our work is so, spiritual, and by mostly through our traditional spiritual practices, right? Whether it's Buddhism, shamanism, Islam, but we're all about interfaith dialogue, about this respect to absolutely all spiritual traditions around the world. And that's what our elders have been working on, and since time basically immemorial, if you think about it. Then, for example, I'm going to talk about this. Our elders are also they're part of what is it's called the Indigenous Elders Council of the World Union of Indigenous Spiritual Practitioners, who in turn, this Elders Council, they are kind of spiritual and cultural guides of the movement called Wayfinder Circle, and it's a large movement of top indigenous activists around the world, from South America to Australia to Papua New Guinea to Kenya to North America, such as a Blackfeet Nation and Celtic Nation. So our elders are part of that, movement as well, but their mission is to provide spiritual support and guidance to this indigenous activists around the world. So that's how our approach is. I'm trying to explain how our work goes beyond snow leopard conservation. And then also, when I was completing my fellowship program at Harvard University, we were able to create this informal webinars on traditional ecological knowledge at Harvard University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and then later at Berkeley, Stanford, and Cambridge, with our LOSL ICPs and members. And I would say, for the first time ever, the professors, students, and other staff from these top universities were able to hear our stories, about our connection to the sacred animals and our connections to sacred sites. And while our elders were very generous in giving them advice and a lot of questions. So that's the Wayfinder Circle gathering Mongolia. So this is all this very powerful indigenous activists around the world, and to the right is kind of more our condensed LOSL team, our three of our respected ICPs here, then two of our other members, and then in the kind of in the spirit of reciprocity, our elders, as part again of the Wayfinders Circle meeting, they were invited to Montana, the state of Montana, by Blackfeet Nation leaders who are working on bringing back their buffalo. So the buffalo is very, very sacred animal, and unfortunately, which was driven to extinction in the 19th and 20th centuries, but kind of slowly this work has started, and even though there's still so much work to do, at least I think it's onwards and from now on. And again, this is our elders, and this is one of our country coordinators, Kulipa Akhmetova from Kyrgyzstan. So they were honored to be part of one of the ceremonies with Blackfeet Nation, and also learning about Blackfeet Nation's sacred animals and the history, and then by offering our prayers and the ceremonies, this is an act of support. It's an act of course, reverence, and it's an act of also uniting, our sacred sites, all the way, in Kyrgyzstan, all the way from Mongolia, all the way from Buryatia, and to sacred sites in Montana.
Maria, may I just join in for a second? Japarkul Atta has joined us.
Oh, yeah, great. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Just to let you know, it's a good time.
Thank you so much. So Japarkul is with us today, and so I'm just gonna try to finish this kind of message about our elders, and obviously, as you know, I'm so proud of them and my life. I mean, that's why I do. One of the reasons why I do it is because of our elders, and last year our elders were part of the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Peoples Issues, and Kulipa here together with this young Indigenous leader from Australia. They made a very powerful statement together, and then we have more of our ICPs and elders who also presented, and then I also urge you to, if you can, to check out the article, which was written by one of our members, and it features one of our elders here about conservation in Mongolia, and how the spirituality of the of the herder community, the ceremonies of these communities is conservation itself. So it's very, I think it's so groundbreaking to talk about this, very sacred subject in a very popular and a very respected and world-renowned magazine such as National Geographic. And the issue was in July. It's titled Indigenous Futures. Yeah, so we have very small glimpse about our elders' work, and this is just not even scratching the iceberg, the top of the iceberg. And they do so much. And the other thing about, when it comes to connection of sacred sites, sacred species, and I'm absolutely convinced, and I believe in this, that whenever our elders travel all the way, around the world, whether to USA or to, to other countries around the world, whether it be Africa, Malaysia, and so on and so forth and so on. But they're bringing, the blessing of the sacred mountains, of the sacred snow leopard to those communities, to those countries. And therefore, and when they come back, this this energy, they bring new energy to communities back home, to our snow leopard mountains, energy from, the sacred sites of Blackfoot Nation, right? The energy of the buffalo back to, Kyrgyzstan, back to Mongolia. And this is just undescribable, right? And I don't know how else to explain this to, I guess, very very much respected scientific community, but this is how, but this is our essence, this is our, our work. And I say this a lot, ceremony is work and ceremony works. So now I want to talk a little bit about our LOSL youth wing. So over the years, mostly we've been focusing a lot on, supporting, and still are supporting, of the elders. But then as years go by, we have this desire from our youth to basically to join our movement, to be with us. And then when the elders are concerned, and not just our elders, but around the world, they're concerned that, the youth are going to the cities, and then they, yes, they do get their education, but then they don't return home. Well, what's the solution to this? And one of the big solutions I really believe in, and is the intercultural exchanges with other Indigenous communities worldwide. So in short, last year, we our LOSL, newly formed LOSL Youth Wing, we're giving this very generous invitation to a very prestigious conference called the Pioneers Conference. And Pioneers is a very popular, very well-respected movement here in the United States, but particularly in California, which addresses many, which is trying to address many challenges that we have today, climate change, sustainability issues, indigenous people's rights issues, and so forth. So we're given this kind of unprecedented access to present our work. So we have two top representatives of LOSL Youth Wing come to host a little table and talk about our work, particularly with elders at the time. And we were very honored to present this I think it's a very beautiful painting or creation done in felt by one of the youth in Kyrgyzstan. This is Karina Gould. She is the tribal chairwoman of Ohlone Lischan Nation, and Berkeley is a traditional territory of Lischan Nation. And we gave this gift to in the sign of respect and also celebration of the fact that Lischan Ohlone Nation, under leadership of Auntie Karina, they were able to get back their very sacred site, which is like in the center of Berkeley, which was unfortunately turned into I think a parking lot, and then through decades and decades of hard work and advocacy, they finally got this piece of land back. And after they'll remove the asphalt and all of this, it'll be created to be back as a sacred site. So it's called the Berkeley Shell Mound site. And it's very special experience. After the conference, we're able to visit our snow leopard elder in the San Francisco Zoo, and it was a very generous and very heartwarming celebration of, I think, each other's work, because up until maybe that particular day, I knew about absolute amazing work that the San Francisco zookeepers made, because our Kaylee from Snow Leopard Conservancy and our Ashley from Snow Leopard Conservancy, they worked prior to SLC, the work that the San Francisco Zoo. So I knew there must be really amazing people, but I didn't know how amazing they are. So we were given a very special tour of the zoo, and also shared about each other's work. And we were so immensely grateful to the zoo professionals for taking care of our snow leopard relatives, and through a small ceremony and through heartfelt discussions, we gave that thanks. And I think we empowered each other at the time to even work much, much harder for the sake of this precious animals and our sacred sites. Now, perhaps the other part why we gathered here for is the sacred site, sacred species project, and I just want to start with the video which explains from the Winnemem Wintu tribe chairwoman, Chief Colleen Sisk, about salmon.
To the mountain, prayed for the salmon. We're here for these salmon. Let them make their way back home.
It's gonna be full of salmon someday. All the way up, they're gonna be full of salmon. They're coming. Our salmon that are in New Zealand are so very important to the life of the tribe. The fish have to come back. These fish have to swim home.
In an historic initiative, federal and state agencies in the tribe became co-equal partners in the salmon restoration project.
For the hatchery trade, it seemed okay with 5,000 eggs, but then when the eggs started developing into alevins and fish, it seemed like it was like looking at a can of worms. You know, even though we're not fish biologists, we are from fish families, fish people. I see my little babies. Oh yeah, they're swimming. This is like what they would be in the river. They're swimming free, very gentle current in here, like as if they were in the nest. We believe that there's a connection between these eggs and the spawning rocks themselves. It's a beginning, but we're not going to stop until there's a volitional passage and until we get our eggs back from New Zealand and the fish are swimming up here. It's the only way they can be recovered.
So this is a very small glimpse into the work that the Winnemem Wintu tribe of Northern California does into protecting both their sacred sites around McLeod River and Mount Shasta, and bringing back the totemic, the sacred Chinook salmon. So what happened is that during the 1940s and 1950s of last century, unfortunately, the government of the United States, they erected the Shasta Dam, one of the most famous dams in the world. But that dam, it created a big barrier to the winter run salmon. Salmon coming back from the ocean, you know, up to McLeod and Sacramento rivers, up to the foothills of Mount Shasta, which is a very sacred mountain to the Winnemem Wintu. And then simultaneously, when that Shasta Dam was erected, you know, so many sacred sites and entire ancestral villages were underwater. So, and whatever remaining sacred sites are left, you know, still the government over the years, they still want to raise the levels of this dam. So it's a very, very difficult and very extraordinarily complex issue and a challenge. It's a human rights issue. It's a animal rights, you know, conservation issue. So you name it. And as a response, and as a to bring awareness to these issues, Chief Colleen Sisk, who was actually she was she's part of our World Union of Indigenous Spiritual Practitioners, and many years ago, when during one of the very sacred ceremonies in Altai, she was invited to come to Altai to be part of that ceremony. And then, and I think that was like the first time when we started connecting our mountains. And then the year goes by, sorry, the years goes by, and then later we realized that, you know, we have to continue our work. We have to continue, especially when it comes to our youth, right? So therefore, Chief Colleen, she invited our youth members to join the Run for Salmon. So Run for Salmon is this it's a prayer journey to address all the issues that, you know, were described in the short video about, you know, the dam, about bringing back the native breed of salmon that is thought to be completely extinct because of the dam rise, but very uniquely, this particular breed, it's alive and well in New Zealand waters. But because of many challenges from government bureaucracy to quite frankly Western conservation science not understanding traditional indigenous knowledge and traditional indigenous spirituality, this there's this barrier of bringing this perfectly fine and actually native native Chinook salmon from New Zealand waters to back to California ocean, and then from ocean through the rivers and to the foothills of Manchester. So over the past 9 years, Chief Sis created this journey called Run for Salmon. And the idea behind it is to educate the public about all these issues, but also, the 300-mile track, it includes kayaking, running, horse riding, and ceremonies all across the sacred sites. For 4 years in a row, it was from the ocean, Pacific Ocean, up to the San Francisco Bay Area, San Pablo Bay, and then up to McLeod and Sacramento Rivers, up to Manchester, and then the other way around. And then last year, it took a bit of a different form, but nevertheless, it was extraordinarily powerful. It was absolutely amazing and incredible honor and the blessing of a lifetime for me personally, but especially the youth. So the youth that we brought, and we did try to bring more youth at that time, but unfortunately only 3 were able to get visas, and then the rest of them couldn't. So that's one of the challenges right there is this obviously boundary, borders, boundaries, and the visas are extremely complex. But nevertheless, this youth that did come, my goodness, what did they came with for it? So the idea was for them to learn how hard the indigenous people in California have to work for what is rightfully theirs. And this is something that will remain with them for the rest of their lives, because as I said, it's so difficult to excuse me, I wanted to find this one photo because it's extremely difficult to live the traditional way of life of your ancestors, right? And I completely understand this, but by being in ceremony and by being in the spiritual relationship with nature and the sacred animals, that's the only way to move forward. And as Chief Sisk said, all mountains in the world are interconnected. And it's true, because and when we think about it, yes, where's the salmon and where is the snow leopard? It's like literally we're continents, we're worlds apart. But when you think about it, they are mountain animals, both, the salmon that goes this tremendous journey from ocean to and back to where it began its life at the McLeod River at the foothills of Manchester, all the way up to this other springs that go directly to Manchester. It's obvious it's a mountain animal. Our snow leopard is obviously a mountain animal, and it's just it's so important to recognize this. And I would say my final message is for you to please think about this all the time, because essentially while we are protecting our snow leopards, we're simultaneously protecting all animals, and then what benefits whatever work we do that may even not be let's say directly related to snow leopard per se, but it automatically will benefit snow leopard because of the spiritual connection that we share, the spiritual obligation that we share to the snow leopard and the sacred sites worldwide, from our home communities to the communities where we're welcomed, such as the Winnemem Wintu. Yeah, I think I'll stop now, and if Japarkul Ata is able to come again to show to be on video and perhaps to present his comments, and if you're fortunate, a blessing. Yes, as you can see, one of the challenges, of course, it's the technical challenges, but despite all of this, like, just imagine when we have to submit the visa applications and then from each elder and there's technical issues, and then you have to translate every single question. But this is yeah, but this is why we do it, and youth too. But nevertheless, it's just so important for them to be here, and then vice versa, to have hopefully, one day we will host the Winnemem Wintu youth in our secret sites, whether it's Kyrgyzstan or Mongolia. So we're working on that. And then without a doubt, we need more and more and more and more of this intercultural and interspiritual connections and gatherings and support, and just to know that you're not alone. That's what really Indigenous communities worldwide, they need to, and it's been said over and over, from the like United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, and to even run for salmon. It's we, as if you're not alone, it's a battle for life. It's a battle for life itself.
Well done, Maria. Thank you so
you.
much. While we're waiting for Jeprakul and Ibek, would you be able to tell everybody a little bit about what the gathering is like, Land of the Snow Leopard gathering?
Yeah, so one of the unique structures of our work, perhaps, is that before the pandemic, we almost every year we had this in-person gathering, which would consist of our partners at Snow Leopard Conservancy. At the time, it was Dr. Rodney Jackson and Darla Hillard and Charlene Gaved, who would provide a lot of wonderful technical training that we need as a network. Then we had our country coordinators, and then most importantly, our ICPs and our local community member representatives. And with the vision and blessing of our ICPs, that's how we, I mean, I think that's how we're still here, just many years from 2013, but also each day, before we have our technical, our strategic planning meeting, or or our technical training meeting, we always start with a ceremony, and then there's one day that it's particularly only dedicated to ceremony only. Japarkulata can testify for sure. And then so all of our, I would say, decisions, our goals, our visions, and our and our mission is kind of like ceremony informed, prayer informed, ceremony driven. And then all together we're making these decisions, but like ceremony, as I said, ceremony is work, and by being in that ceremony, we're doing this job, and spiritual work is a very, very tough, job, because you're so exposed, you're so vulnerable, but because there's so much things that are so much bigger than you, such as our Mother Earth and Snow Leopard, that is bringing us together, and just bestowing to us this type of responsibility. He wants us to do good and to disseminate this message around the world, and which I think we've been successfully doing for the last 12 years now, 2025. I think meanwhile, I'll be happy to answer any questions, which I'm sure you have many.
Yes. Feel free to put your questions in the group chat, or if you'd like to put your hand up and ask yourself, feel free. Who would like to go first? Okay, we have a question from Flavia. She says, how do you envision the future of LOSL? And
Yep. Oh,
And okay,
under
and what role would
LOSL.
Indigenous youth play in shaping it?
Yeah, thank you, Flavia. Right. So the future is definitely, well, first of all, speaking of the gatherings, how our gatherings were. So unfortunately, we haven't had a gathering in about 5 years now, and hopefully this fall, with the guidance of our elders and youth representatives who will join the gathering, we will develop a new vision, and through ceremonies that will be conducted, will be informed and kind of re-energized our mission and our values and so many other things. But from today and from what we experienced, last year, I can say without a doubt that the future of LOSL is is in creating more of this international indigenous connections by supporting indigenous movements around the world. So not just our countries, not just our regions, and through bringing the support and this hopefully inspiration, it will benefit so many, just an entire planet itself. And then as for youth, hopefully through this intercultural exchanges, both ways, not just our Central and Inner Asia LOSL members coming here, but also indigenous youth from Turtle Island. USA is called Turtle Island, and Canada and USA and Mexico. So maybe they can come to our lands and learn from our elders about this, the sacredness of our animals, about this, about our sacred sites. And this way, this will, create the seed. The seed will be planted, and it will empower them for the rest of their lives.
We have another question in the chat from Rashmi. So thanks for your wonderful presentation, amazing work. I was wondering that in your work with your fellow community members and also other Indigenous communities, what are people's perceptions and relations toward non-charismatic animals like wolves and also dogs, both dogs of pastoral communities and free-ranging?
Well, I think wolf is charismatic, and also actually wolf is traditionally considered also a sacred animal, totemic animal, and probably like the best person to talk about it is our Mongolian country coordinator, Tunga, who actually originally started as the specialist in wolves as a wildlife biologist, and then later transitioned to be a snow leopard expert. I mean, I probably will not sugarcoat this, but I mean, if I would say very proudly that because of the work that both of our country coordinators and our ICPs has done to revive the knowledge of the sacredness of snow leopards in our regions. The snow leopard is right now is taboo, right? Killing it is taboo. However, this does not necessarily extend to wolves to this capacity, but we will but I think we will expand this more and more to as possible, because yeah. So and then in terms of dogs, I honestly I do not have an answer to that, but I do have an answer in so some years ago, we had, well, and there still are our members, there's this traditional hunting community in Kyrgyzstan, eagle hunters. I know it's probably going to sound very controversial right now, but this particular community, this movement, they actually revived the traditional breed of hunting dogs, and these dogs are, there were Aboriginal dogs that always, inhabited the mountain ecosystems in Kyrgyzstan, and then by riding a horse, and then this dog and the eagle. I mean, by the time you kind of get to hunt an animal, it's it's a lot of effort. So I can maybe answer your question like that. While I don't know about the free ranging dogs, but in terms of the revival of Aboriginal and hunting dogs, this work is done by one of our members.
Yes, thanks, Maria. And I also wanted to add too that, while we're the Snow Leopard Conservancy, we are also protecting it's the balance of the ecosystem. So snow leopards is the flagship and keystone species, but we really focus on coexistence altogether with human wildlife coexistence in the high mountains. And so our wolves, our efforts do extend also to preventing retaliatory killings toward wolves and bears and lynx and other predators that also share this area, while making sure that we're also encouraging healthy ungulate populations, and all the education programs really emphasize the web of life and the importance of every single animal and within the ecosystem. I just wanted to, we have a question from Sharon from WWF. Hi, great work and presentation, Maria. I work in WWF Nepal and have been able to integrate faith in our conservation program, including work with Faith Institution to create a 10-year faith plan for the environment. WWF globally has beliefs and values program, and I wanted to know if there's any coordination with them, or if you think that might be useful. Thanks for that, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. No, I thank you for this information. I have not heard about this initiative, and it's definitely very worth of investigating. But must I tell you, it has, of course, it has to be approved by our elders and ICPs and in their vision. If it will be up to their discretion, basically. But I will be very interested in learning about this and passing it on to our ICPs and to see what they think.
We can provide our email addresses as well, Sharon. If you'd like to connect with us, perhaps we can have a conversation with that right afterwards.
Yeah.
We have another question from Flavia. Do you have plans to expand the work to other regions and make more collaborations, or both? So similar question.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, always. Oh, always. And so that would be again, I think our future is in, expansion and welcoming in other, many indigenous communities and perhaps non-indigenous too. So we can learn intercultural and interspiritual exchanges. So it's a definite yes, and hopefully kind of funding organizations will be able to see the value and to see the importance and to support us in the way that we deserve. Yeah,
Great,
and I
thank
think I figured out the way.
Ibek's ready.
So in the phone.
Okay, can you unmute, Ibek?
Извините, проблемы, что-то у Джабраклота не получается зайти. Как-то так получится. Хорошо?
Хорошо. Здравствуйте. Саламатсызбы. Самбана. Ата, вы меня слышите? Ата нас слышит?
Вот АСП?
Вот он вот.
Слышит.
Yerim bürük borkellik, temengerlik danışmandır, tabiat menen, jakındık menen, Agilbiristin ıyırttığın sezүү menen hak dilek batagılaylık. O bugünkü jıyınımız jayınaklı olsun. Jemiştүү olsun. Hac yaratkan Alda Taala ya manakey bizden şu jerde siyetli ıyık jerde Asatanın orduluk siyetli ıyık jerinden buna kan jayıp turabız. Çiçimiz Kamil Sağımбек oğlu mına Aybek biz bolup şu jerde ak dilek batabızды joldoybuz. Aylanayın gelecek muğunga Ağıtın düzlüğünü ıyık canıvarımızda saklasa tabiatımız yavır. Aylanayın jaratkanга kayırılabız. Kayırılabız. Jolu beni biz ayırılabız jerde zarında ıyık jerinden al jerde ırım jirimizni jasap jaratkandan dilep turabız. Jabı dilek batabızды joldoybuz. Menen bizді jaratkan kalıp üçün sımlanıp kal, hasiyetler kılıp kal, iyilikle koştup kal. Şu ağını biz aykın atamızdan olduğu tutunup bir sürü kişiyi kuşup versin. Ben
Слышно, да?
Рахмат,
О,
спасибо большое.
я коротко скажу, да?
Мгм, пожалуйста.
Как уже проколота не получится с такими же эмоциями, с такой же энергией, но я постараюсь. О Всевышний, мы восхваляем Тебя и обращаемся с молитвой. Э, Благослови наш народ э, и нашу священную землю Алато. Пусть в наших величественных горах среди высоких скал и утесов свободно существует священный снежный барс, символ гармонии между человеком и природой. Мне по чуть-чуть или сразу все сказать?
По чуть-чуть я в чат печатаю. So I'm trying to also write down the translation of this powerful blessing. Yeah, so пожалуйста.
Мы, люди, обязаны беречь и охранять священного зверя, который испокон веков является хранителем равновесия между небом и землей. Если мы не позаботимся о нем, то и природа не позаботится о нас. Сейчас открывается новая эра. Мы должны сохранить древнюю мудрость наших предков, чтобы передать ее будущим поколениям. Пусть эта конференция принесет плодотворные результаты. Пусть каждый из нас внесет свой вклад в защиту снежного барса и природы. Пусть наши усилия станут залогом благополучного будущего, полного добра, милосердия и гармонии между человеком и окружающим миром. Аминь. Все коротко, вот так вот. Слышно же, да?
Да, слышно, спасибо. Я перевод написала в чат. So this is very condensed, even more condensed translation from Джабркулата. Джабркулата, большое спасибо, Рахмет. Омин. Yeah, so we're so fortunate to have received this blessing and this, I would say, empowerment for all of us. And yes, please don't take this, message, this prayer for granted, because it is true. Our work is, is all of us. I mean, within who are here and who are part of SLN. We are protecting the sacred, protecting the sacred snow leopard. And even though we have various ways of achieving, of our goals, and we probably think our method is best method to protect the snow leopard and the mountains, but in reality, it's all of our ways are important. Snow leopard has so many different beautiful dots, right? Spots, and then so that's why snow leopard needs so much support and very variety of different ways of protecting him. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Maria and Jepar Kuata and Ibak. I think we have, if everyone hasn't seen yet, the translation for Jepar Kul's blessing is in the chat. And I think we just had two final questions, Maria, if that's all right with you. One from Charlene says, "Thank you, Maria. Are you aware if any governments or municipalities in LOSL regions are recognizing the importance of cultural practitioners?"
I think that would be amazing question to Jepar Kul, but I also see one of our very dear ICP, the legendary monastery reciter, Камиль Байке. So maybe Айбек, вы сможете перевести этот вопрос для Камиля Байке? И тут спрашивается, знаем ли мы, если вот как бы правительство или различные муниципалитеты признают ли они роль духовных практиков, ну и как бы работу духовных практиков, поскольку Камиль Байке с нами, мне кажется, это хорошо.
Кутман таң, бізде жаңы таң атты. Бізде бұл рухани, духовный мәселелерді мамлекетіміз жақсы қабылдайды. Себеп дегенде, мен өзімдің иштеп аткан кызматым улуттук Манас Ордо, ошол духовный эпостун атын алган жерде иштейм. Балдарды тарбиялайм. Муну мамлекетибиз өзгөчө бул духовный деп биздин эпос айтуучуларды, мисалы бизге окшогон манасчыларды мамлекет айлык төлөп азыркы учурда колдоого алып жатат. Анын үстүнө биздин ушул Манас эпосунун ичинде биз сүйлөшүп аткан ак илбирс жөнүндө, ак илбирстин мындай духу колдоп тургандыгы, Манас баатырды духу колдоп тургандыгы жөнүндө көп айтылат. Ошон үчүн ак илбирс менен биргеликте бул духовный сырларыбызды жана практиктерди ошол алып жүрүүчүлөрдү мамлекетибиз колдоп турат. Мамлекетибиз эми өзүнүн алымын жетишинче колдойт. Бирок биз дайыма өзүбүздүн демилге менен, өзүбүздүн күчүбүз менен жерлерди кыдырып, элге жакшылыктарды тилөө жана келген улуу сырларды элге жана башка адамдарга ушундай конференцияларда айтуу өзүбүздүн милдетибиз болуп эсептелет.
Да, правительство поддерживает. Допустим, Камиль Байке сам работает директором
Манас
Ордо, который является отчасти духовным, да, духовной практикой. Также, ну, он говорит, что правительство как может поддерживает, и в то же время они сами участвуют, сами же ездят там по селам или насчет снежного барса рассказывают. Ну, свои усилия тоже прилагают. Правительство со своей стороны, кто может, помогает, и они со своей стороны, что могут делать. Ага.
Спасибо. So I also want to add, so this is very small condensed conversation in chat, and the reason I think it's and I'm very grateful that Camille Bouquet and Jepar Kul is with us today is because honestly they're the best people to answer your questions, while I'm very honored to be a representative of so many voices and so many perspectives and so much work that we do. It's best to learn directly from the from our ICPs and elders. And Yeah, so in the experience of, I guess, in Kyrgyzstan, we can see it is supportive. The government usually is. And I just must say that it's because of also the trust of the local communities that they have in our elders, the trust and respect. And this trust and respect is not gained overnight. It's gained over decades and decades and years of the spiritual work, the spiritual service, of integrity. And once again, we're so fortunate to have this esteemed elders as in to guide us in our LOSL work. Yeah. And
Thank you so much, Maria. We have a couple more questions. I was also wondering about bridges. Do you see many connections among the regions LOSL works? Like, for example, are there bridges you can see and ways that you've experienced that one work has influenced the other in a very different region? Perhaps nature trunks might be an example here.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, well, one of the things is that whenever, again, I probably am repeating myself, but it's always such a challenge just to describe like the scope of our work because everything is so interconnected. And I think Flavia is recognizing this, so thank you very much. But for example, with the Nature Trunks program, which was developed by our Mongolian country coordinator, Tungalak Tuya Khundu. This is an award-winning project, and it received a Disney one of Disney Conservation Hero Award in 2016, I believe, and then later as a network in 2020 as a network we received this award altogether. And then at that time and to this day, I mean, it's the nomadic nature trunk program is so revolutionary as it is it's filled with this various educational materials that are very high quality, but most importantly the curriculum that is easily adaptable to any school subject. And as we may know in our countries, our regions, the rural secondary education is quite, usually it's quite outdated. And then when something like this happens, this revolutionary program, of course, the teachers and the students, they love it, they look forward to it. And the act itself of that, the nature trunk is being hosted by one school, let's say for 1 or 2 months. And then later, it's like nomadizing, right? It travels to another school. And then the kids learn the art of reciprocity, the traditional concept of reciprocity. And then later, as years went by, since we started off the project, we saw the importance of putting more of traditional indigenous knowledge perspective into this curriculum. So then with the consultation of our elders and ICPs, then we created we included, this additional curriculum that will, let's say, that will help the children to ask questions from their elders, to think about ceremonies, to think about spiritual aspect of snow leopards and other animals and all mountain ecosystems itself. So that itself, of course, all things because we had the original nomadic nature trunk project. So that's like one example. And what started in Mongolia, now we have it in Kyrgyzstan, we have it in Tajikistan, and in Altai Republic as well. Another example is, I guess, the creation of the snow leopard festivals, and this is kind of both kind of frustrating and kind of pain in my heart, because the Snow Leopard Festival was first ever. It was created by our late, unfortunately, this person passed away, but was created by Chagat, Almashov, a visionary from Altai. And so he created this Snow Leopard Festival to bring back the prestige and the respect to the snow leopards. And each year it grew and grew from the little village to multi-village, then to regional, then to national. And then as we were forming our network, our country coordinators from Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan were very interested, and Mongolia. So, and then it spread out to those countries as well, and it's been very, very successful throughout many years. And despite pandemic, despite numerous other challenges and horrible challenges, but still this nomadic nature trunks are and the festivals are going strong. But it's very important to know who was the creator of this, and was Chagat Almashov.
Wonderful. We just have a couple minutes left, so we have looks like
Unfortunately, yes.
two more questions. We have one from Raza. It says, thank you for the nice presentation. My question is, what are the major threats to snow leopard, and what steps have you taken besides a spiritual perspective?
Yes. Thank you, Raza. I feel like, well, I think we're all very well aware of the challenges and threats that snow leopard faces. But if I may add the perspective from one of our ICPs back home, who said the major threat to snow leopards is the loss of traditional indigenous knowledge, is the loss of the spirituality, to paraphrase him. And I want to maybe, if I find his exact quote, I will be happy to share. But from our perspective of our elders, so we understand that the risks and threats for the sacred snow leopard are augmented by the loss of traditional understanding and respect for the value of totem animals. We therefore are eager to unite our efforts with the efforts of respective governments, scientists, and the world community. Snow leopard is a symbol of justice and embodiment of everything pure in our mountains that we worship. And to say, I think I understand that our work is so different, and perhaps, but the thing is, with the spiritual side and kind of spiritual empowerment of the communities, we have more than almost close to 20 cases of releases of snow leopard back into the wild in Tajikistan, in Kyrgyzstan, and Mongolia. And it's because of this revived knowledge of the sacredness of snow leopard. And that revived knowledge is only because of the ceremonies, because of the work of our spiritual work. And that is as solid to me as it is, as it can be.
Thank you, Maria. I think it's important to highlight that, in every landscape, there's, not a one size fits all, strategy, but regarding the reviving of traditional knowledge, that's such a really key, critical, vital, important piece, across the snow leopards range, involving local indigenous communities. And in these countries, there's also a lot of other work that's happening as well by SLC's partners, Snow Leopard Trust partners, WCS partners, other conservationists. And so our work really does, all complement each other, and everybody having a role in addressing each of the threats for not only snow leopards, but the other animals in the ecosystem. We have one last question. This is from Jamie. Amazing presentation, Maria. I am based in Taiwan. One of my organization's aims is to reintroduce clouded leopards to Taiwan in the future. We also do conservation work on other animals in Taiwan, such as Asiatic black bears and leopard cats. I'm wondering if LOSL has any experience or advice to impart on navigating cultural, religious differences between different stakeholders. For example, in Taiwan, we work with a lot of indigenous and hunting communities, which may use snares. Snares are also used by farmers to try to protect their crops from animals. snares are becoming a politically contentious issue in Taiwan for animal welfare concerns. For example, bears and free-roaming dogs are often snared, yet large hunting game, example for subsistence, are often used, and hunting culture is an integral part of indigenous culture in Taiwan. Have you experienced any tensions regarding hunting culture in your areas in the Land of the Snow Leopard Network, and any advice or experience to share?
Yeah, that's a very extensive, big question, and I do wish we had more time for maybe Jaburkolata to also contribute to this question, but because of the technical difficulty and we're running out of time. Well, there is as Ashley said, no just standard solution, even especially when it comes to dealing with the spiritual work, right, with the cultural work. So I think if I to kind of summarize our experiences, that, we came together, well, yes, we started in 2013, but our elders, our key members, they started a bit earlier than that by getting to know each other in other ceremonies. And then Darla and Rodney came to, I think, Buryatia in 2010. First time. So, and then just like very slowly, like over years, even decades, to build this trust, integrity, and respect, most importantly, respect to the spiritual and cultural traditions of these areas. And then I think another, I guess, very heartfelt advice, and even if it's and kind of like maybe even the prayer itself, is that and it's not just to you, Jamie, but to all of us who are listening to this webinar, especially who are are coming from a very mainstream conservation approach, which is very important. But because right now, we're facing the most, probably the most crisis that was ever, like unprecedented times, right? Politically, and everywhere worldwide, in climate change and so forth. So it's very important to, despite your whatever your spiritual tradition may be, but to really seek, I guess, spiritual help and spiritual empowerment through your own ancestral spiritual traditions, whichever tradition it may be, and ask your ancestors or your, for help, in this work, because, I'm approaching this particular indigenous community, like, ancestor, this and this, please help me, because I believe in this work. I love these animals, and I am, and this is a very special type of work. So, and therefore, by being spiritually empowered yourself, then, go to those communities and start building these relationships, which probably will take, not 1 year, not 3 years, not 5 years. And then maybe will be a space to also to consult with our ICPs, like Jaburkolata and Camille and so many others, when there's better, like technology-wise, and everything's more set up, and maybe we'll have time for this type of discussion in future.
Wonderful. Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Maria. I think those are all the questions we have. I did also put Maria's email in the chat, as well as mine. We look forward to keeping in touch with you all and collaborating with you. And yeah, thank you so much for your time and interest in our work. And thanks very much, Maria, for that fantastic presentation and for all you do leading Land of the Snow Leopard Network's work. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Ashley, Maria, the LOSL team, IBEX, Japako. It was wonderful having you. And we hope people will stay in touch with you. There was a lot we learned, and it was very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Raki and Byra and Snow Leopard Network. Thanks so much, everyone. Wishing you all good health and peace and happiness. Take good care.
Yes.